What was your first ever Nerf blaster? Could it have been the Fire Strike, a gift from mom, whether you were at the store in Walmart, or even a Christmas present when money was tight? Or were you a bit more further back than that and received a Night Finder, whether it's from a friend, yet again your parents on Christmas Day, or of course you buying it out of curiosity? Maybe you were a 90s kid, growing up during a time when the legends such as the Kenner Nerf Secret Shot and of course the Kenner 95 crossbow came out. Did you enjoy these blasters? The simple function of course pulling back a T-pull of some sort and letting the dart, arrow, mega dart, whatever you made out of it, fly. Well, in 2021, we have seen an uptick of so many pump action springers these days, so many flywheel mods, whether it's Flywheel the World microsystems or large systems such as the Motor Strike. But sure enough though, what if there was a blaster out there that would scratch that itch, that childhood itch of where simply you just pulled a rod and sometimes had to push it back in order to be able to fire a darts? Better yet, what if it was magazine fed? One that you could design to your own liking, with different barrels, different springs, different colors, all tuned to your liking, of course. Well, in 2021, Taffy of Charamile Designs, and of course aided by Captain Slug, released the Skewer.
So what is the Skewer? Well, the Skewer for one is in fact a T-pull style springer, which is honestly one of the first I've seen in a long time. Last time we've ever had something similar to this would be the Chronos mag, in which, you take a Chronos, you cut open the bottom of it a certain way, you fiddle with the magazine well, you really have to roughen up and get the breech just perfect in order for it to feed. And most likely, if you're throwing in K25 or K26, you did in fact have to install a T-pull on the priming handle. Sure enough, this guy takes the complicated mess that is the Chrono Mag, and as well as, the very bare bones, simple, yet very powerful aspect of rainbow pistols of the past time, and turns it into a format in which you can print the parts, buy a partially Talon Claw-ish hardware kit. Nowadays, it's its own hardware kit, so you don't need to juggle between those types, and just mash them together into this complete blaster. Obviously, the main selling point of this guy is that it is T-pull primed. You just yank. However, though, in yanking, it does open up the breech, which means you do have to push it in order to slide a dart into place and, of course, fire. Oh yeah, easy D-prime as well, so that's nice. In terms of the Skewer's value in itself, I got mine from Silver Fox Industries. So it being high quality prints and also, a longer lead time considering their name brand and just their popularity among the community, this did cost me around $135, give or take, including the shipping and of course, obviously paying for the printed parts and the hardware kit. I did not, however, pay for it to be pure assembled. I wanted to tackle this guy on my own, so I picked the DIY kit. That way I could also learn how to keep maintenance up on this guy. You remember, it's not a butterfly shell blaster like injection molded ones where you unscrew one side, open it up, and the problem's right there. For something like this, you do have to take it apart layer by layer by layer by layer in order to diagnose what could be wrong with it should anything go wrong. Likewise though, it also taught me a lot about how to take care of 3D printed products, and of course in general just learning about these platforms of like the Talon Claw and such. So honestly, that's pretty neat. However, Silver Fox Industries is not the only place you could get this. If you want it on a different location, more often than not, if you're like on the northeast side of the US or even, you know, Europe, then Foamdemic also sells their own skewers, both DIY kits, I think, and also, well, mainly pre-made, like they already build it for you and ship it out to you as is. So there is one if you want it at a lower price, and of course if you want it complete. Lastly, obviously the blaster is open source, so you can very well just grab the STL files and print the parts yourself, and then follow it up by going to Captain Slug's website or any approved seller and purchase a hardware kit from there. The hardware kit is usually around $50, so you'll be saving yourself a lot. For comparison, something like the Gecko goes for $70 on the hardware kit alone. So this hardware kit is a $20, you know, just $20 savings for something that honestly is a lot more refined than the Gecko, believe it or not. Because the Gecko, I have seen people have issues where their slide in general just broke, or it just, you know, froze into place, and they had to take apart the blaster multiple times just to even figure out what's going on. Something like this, once you built it, like Todd Howard, it just works. Granted though, there are a few drawbacks to this blaster, things that do need refining. So, obviously the best parts about this blaster is how high its FPS can hit, based off of your barrel type and of course your spring. In my case, K25 and the stock aluminum barrel gets me around 200 to 215 FPS. Granted though, in my chronograph readings, it was a lot more sporadic than that. The main reason being is just the vagueness of barrel installation in the instructions, whether you're reading his hand-drawn instructions of Taffy or you're watching the Silver Fox Industries build guide. The way that the barrel is installed is simply, you just put one of the O-rings on there, they're lettered so you know which one, onto the rear end of the barrel here, and then just press it into place, and then obviously use this piece, slide it on, and just screw it down, which is nice. It keeps a formal design, but over time though, this barrel does easily get loose, so eventually I start losing a lot of air because the breech doesn't seal right, so I'd be getting FPS as low as 110, when in reality it should be more around the 200 area considering the setup. So that's a big drawback. In my opinion, something like some sort of riveting system, or even putting screws, like drilling screw holes on the side and using screws to clamp down on the sides of the barrel to keep it from just popping out like that over time, would honestly be ideal for this blaster. As for now though, every now and then, you know, if you are using it on the field like I did a few days ago, just check your blaster, push the barrel back in, and just keep on rolling. I mean, whether or not it's just a design flaw in itself, or it's a design flaw of myself, because as I said, first 3D printed blaster I built from the ground up, so not everything is sunshine and rainbows with how I did this. So yeah, another thing that I want to recommend is, honestly, we could have used more rail on the back end, such as with this 3D printed part right here, because this front side of rail is great, especially for optics. I put my red dot sight on here and it really did help a lot. However, when it comes to slinging this blaster or just storing it on your body, having the sling point out here means that whenever you put it on a sling, it tilts upwards. More often than not, you're going to want your blasters to tilt more downwards when you have them slung onto your back or onto your waist. So having rail back here means that we can move our sling points further on back, allowing the blaster to be more balanced and end up feeling more front heavy when slung over. Because right now the blaster in itself is obviously rear heavy. You could see how much 3D printed plastic and hardware is in this area. So naturally this blaster will be rear heavy. So it'd be nice to have the sling point go all the way out here along with Picatinny rail in order to offset that imbalance. And, you know, just keep the blaster more in line with other blasters, which would, you know, swing downwards when in storage on your body. Lastly, the use of elastics is honestly very creative. And it's very simple too. With the magazine well, this works perfectly, because should anything go wrong, all you need to do is just literally loop another elastic band in here and tie it down and you're good to go. However, what I don't like is the use of elastic on the trigger and the sear system, because right now it is good enough, However, though, the issue is that whenever you're done tying this thing, a little bulge of fabric of, you know, the elastic will obviously be popping out right here, meaning that it will put some pressure, upwards pressure on your plunger tube if not tied right, which obviously, as I said, it was a rough build for me, so I didn't really tie it right, nor do I really know how to tie it correctly in order to not have this thing push up against the plunger tube ever so slightly. But this would usually result in me pulling back on the blaster, pushing it forward, but because of how tight the spring is compressed and basically adding not only just pressure on the whole system but also downwards force to combat obviously the bulge of the tied knot at the end. But basically, yeah, with those two types of pressures, downward and upwards colliding, my trigger would get stuck, so you'd really have to give it a tight squeeze just to be able to release the catch. So having, you know, the classic, you know, nub and spring set in here as opposed to elastic would have been nice. However, I can see why he did it this way, considering the fact that the whole point of the skewer is just a simple build that can honestly be made and maintenance at a whim. Should anything go wrong, these parts are not as, you know, elegant or as extravagant or as detailed as, say, the Caliburn or Talon Claws parts are. So this grip should be pretty simple to reprint should anything go wrong with that elastic, like it snaps open and whatnot. But overall, though, I just kind of wish that this was more of a clean internal indent and spring system as opposed to elastic. But still, it works out. Regardless, those were the shortcomings of the skewer, but the fact that they are very minimal and just came down to a possibly loose barrel, my own personal gripe with elastics, and in general just making this a lot more streamlined, that's honestly wonderful. There's the fact that it's just those three things, two of them being quite frankly pointless, is honestly amazing. So big props to Taffy for thinking a lot of things through when designing this blaster. As for the final standpoints for this blaster, honestly, I can't recommend it enough. Being my very first 3D printed blaster purchase, I am very satisfied with the way this thing came out. I am very satisfied with its performance, albeit the loose barrel fit issue that I'm having. But honestly, I've already ordered a Kuriaka barrel to replace this one, so maybe that will get a tighter grip in the 3D printed parts right here. So who knows, it might just be 11 on my end, so that's fine by me. I can live with it for now. And overall though, even with the bit of the weight being rear heavy, the fact that, you know, your grip, the general grip, and your hand right here is holding it up most of the time, really does, you know, make that complaint minute. But overall though, as I said, the performance, the look of it, you know, its simple toyish nature with the ridiculous big prime right here, is honestly what makes this blaster special. The fact that it's a one-hit wonder by Taffy himself, you know, barely first 3D printed blaster he puts on the block and already everyone and their mother wants one. That is an amazing accomplishment in the Nerf hobby and foam flinging hobby at large. So you know what, man, you made it big. I hope to see more for this blaster in the near future, whether it's stuff like T-pole options, you know, a ring style, or redesign the classic Poonbo grip in order to pull back and push forward like that, or even something funny like a piece of candy style. That'd be quite funny for this. Likewise, stuff like front end options right here to make it a lot more angled, or maybe even different grip options would definitely help expand this platform more, just like it has with the Talon Claw, the Lynx, the Caliburn, and so on and so forth. So there are plenty of directions that you could take the skewer with, but for now, as is, being the one-hit wonder child that it is, I absolutely love it. I will be using this guy whenever I can. Shoot, right after this video, I'm just going to be shooting at the target on my wall, you know, insulation and infrastructure be damned. It's going to be a fun time. And overall though, do I recommend this blaster? Of course I do. Get yourself one. I put links for everything related to this blaster down below, so by all means check it out. Support Taffy. Who knows, he might make a one-hit wonder. My dogs are barking, so I'm gonna head on out, guys. Have a great night. Keep on foam flinging.
Haha! Woohoo! Woohoo! Oh. Haha. Oh, okay. Dart got stuck. Yep.
Oh yeah.
There we go. Trigger got stuck. On the leg. Jonathan, on the leg. Whoops. On the chest.
Your accuracy is amazing.
Indoors only, bro. Almost. Oh, hit.
Ah.